AI is taking the place of Amazon reviews, the pastors at the church, and even John Lennon and the Beatles. Plus, we're going to be making some AI music thanks to Meta's new open source model, and we're even going to play around and see if we can transform a QR code into AI art. All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of AI Roundup. Today, we're going to be changing the format up just a little bit and seeing if maybe it sticks for the future. I know you guys are here for the important and always rapidly advancing stories about AI and the related industries that are putting it to use. So let's just get right into it. All right, first up in a story from CNBC by Annie Palmer. Amazon is trialing a new AI-driven feature that condenses customer product reviews into brief summaries, providing users with the positives and negatives of a product based on customer feedback. This initiative is part of Amazon's wider investment in generative AI technologies, which aim to improve customer experience. The approach could be beneficial for customers navigating through thousands of reviews on a single product, enhancing trust and the reliability of reviews amidst ongoing concerns over fake reviews on the platform. Yes, I'll be very interested to see which reviews get incorporated into these summaries, as I know quite a few people that, whether I'm just seeing their memes or actually know their work personally, kind of use the comments, the reviews rather, on Amazon as a bit of a shit posting platform. So, I hope the AI doesn't pick up on too many of those. Next up from Ars Technica by Benj Edwards. An experimental church service in Fürth, Germany, utilized OpenAI's ChatGPT to generate a sermon delivered by avatars as part of the Biennial German Evangelical Church Congress. The service, largely conceived by theologian Jonas Simmerlein, used AI to address topics like leaving the past behind and maintaining faith. Reactions to the AI-led service were mixed, with some finding the lack of emotion off-putting, while others were impressed by the capability of the AI. Simmerlein emphasized that the intention was not to replace religious leaders, but to use AI as a tool that could aid them, especially in sermon writing. And hey, that's extremely familiar, as what I just read you is a summary from ChatGPT of the article that we're talking about here. But, I don't know if I'm ready for AI in the church. It seems like pretty much anybody that has some kind of job like this is going to at least put it to the test. So I'm curious to see what's next. And speaking of what's next, from the BBC by Mark Savage, Sir Paul McCartney has utilized artificial intelligence to extract John Lennon's voice from an old demo, enabling the completion of what he calls the final Beatles record. The song is suspected to be a 1978 Lennon composition named Now and Then. The AI was used to isolate Lennon's voice from the demo, overcoming technical issues that had previously hampered the song's completion. Despite potential misgivings about other AI applications, McCartney views the technology as an exciting prospect for the future. And I mean, this is different. When I first saw this headline, I assumed that it was about the people that have been making Beatles songs with AI. No, this is actually the man himself. Maka is putting AI to use to finish a song that, just can never get over the line in the past. I totally get it. I'm a finisher. I have songs in my hard drive from 10 to 15 years ago that I'm always telling myself I'm going to go back and finish. I'm not really so sure how I feel about this use of the technology. I guess it is an actual recording of John Lennon before he died, not a recreation of his voice post-mortem. So I think that is a little bit better. And at the same time, I feel like a lot of this is stemming from the technology that was, used for the new Abbey Road by Peter Jackson documentary that, used a lot of AI to make the sound much better on that project. And hey, I mean, for what it's worth, I really enjoyed that documentary, and it's clear that it probably wouldn't have been possible, or at least not nearly as good, without the use of AI. So, hey, I'll give it a chance. I'll wait and see what it sounds like. For our big picture stories, first up from Japan.com. OpenAI's chief Sam Altman, during his remarks at Keio University, compared the revolution brought by AI tools in education to that of calculators. He believes the way education is imparted and students are evaluated will have to change due to tools like ChatGPT, which can generate human-like conversations and translations. Despite concerns about the misuse of such tools in education, Altman emphasized the need for regulations for AI, considering the possible risk if the technology goes wrong. He also downplayed the fear of AI making many jobs obsolete, insisting that new classes of jobs will emerge. And I think this is an actually really interesting metaphor I don't think I've heard before, but it's so obvious that ChatGPT is like the calculator for language. Obviously, we know that there's a really high risk of students cheating, but it also seems like there's a ton of tools in place to detect whether or not ChatGPT was used to generate essays and the like. Now, we've also seen that go wrong where people are being accused of generating their essays with ChatGPT when they are vehemently denying that that's the case. So this is really dicey. And hey, as always, I don't know how I feel about Sam Altman in general beyond I do like that he's out there trying to encourage regulation and just, highlighting that critical thinking is still going to be necessary even with tools like this at our disposal. All right, and from Cointelegraph.com by Tristan Green. In his opening speech for London Tech Week, UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak revealed that Google DeepMind, OpenAI, and Anthropic have agreed to provide early access to their AI models for the UK. This is part of a three-step plan aimed at deploying AI systems safely and securely, which includes advanced safety research, the formation of a global task force due to AI's borderless nature, and investment in AI and quantum technologies. The exact nature and timing of the early or priority access to AI models have not been clarified. I think this is really fascinating. Are we seeing here the Californication of AI? Obviously, California is the leader in a lot of regulatory movements in America because there's such a big population. When they take on things like, I don't know if I can think of one right now, but I can. Labeling products because they have certain harmful substances in them. I used to work in the glasses industry, the optical industry, and while I was still there, even before I, moved out of that industry, a new law came out that from California that lenses made from polycarbonate, you needed to send a disclaimer with that. Are we going to see the developments that are coming out of the UK because of this agreement setting the tone for the way AI will be regulated around the world? Probably not, because it's not the same relationship California has to the United States that UK has to the rest of the world. But nonetheless, it is a pretty interesting movement, and I'm curious to see where this goes. Our last big picture story for today comes from VentureBeat by Carl Franzen. Research by UK and Canadian scientists indicates that as generative AI models use more AI-created content in their training, they begin to generate errors and show a decrease in non-erroneous response variety, a phenomenon dubbed model collapse. This is because AI models, when trained on AI-generated content, increasingly misrepresent reality due to the compounding mistakes in the generated data. The researchers proposed two possible solutions: maintaining an unaltered human-generated dataset for regular model retraining and regularly introducing fresh human-generated content into the dataset. The issue emphasizes the need for efficient methodologies to preserve the integrity of generative models over time. Okay, so this is a big one. I've had discussions about the fact that, Midjourney AI image generating engine, the later models could have possibly been highly trained on its own output from previous models. I unfortunately can't confirm that beyond that I trust some of the sources that I discussed this with. But that ties in directly to the idea that, hey, humans are obviously necessary to make these models work. This is at the core of this conversation. You can't just let AI generate a bunch of stuff and then feed it back in. It seems like the quality of the results gets lower when you do that. And it just proves that this is, again, a tool, garbage in, garbage out. It has to be utilized with great data sets. And more important than that, I think it's going to take people stepping up that want their data sets to be used versus people people that are just having their data sets stolen because they're on the internet. And that's a whole nother debate I don't want to get into today on this show. But nonetheless, it is important that we see these signs of the cracks in these models if they're treated that way. Well, that's all for our big picture segment for today. But speaking of models, we've got a couple of new use cases that I want to try out with you. First, an open source music generating model created by Meta. All right, so our first use case coming from TechCrunch, but really from Meta. Meta has launched an AI-powered music generator named MusicGen, which can transform a textual description into roughly 12 seconds of audio and can also emulate an existing melody. Trained on 20,000 hours of music, it doesn't quite surpass the abilities of human musicians. Now, that is a very generous description. But it performs on par with Google's AI music generator, MusicLM. While the training code hasn't been shared, pre-trained models are accessible to anyone with suitable hardware. So I did go and check this out. I didn't run it on my own machine, although I did see that you can download the models and use them locally if you want to, which is interesting. I've only tested out a couple of these. I did try out the Google AI music generator, and it was pretty disappointing. Just nonsense to me for the most part. But this sounded exciting, especially because it has the added layer of letting you guide it with a melody. So I tried it out. First, I tried to generate a version of the Tech Bar theme song. I don't know how many people know this, but before I even worked at MMN, I was tasked by Ray and the crew to try to make a theme song for the Tech Bar. Highly inspired by the Cheers theme song. That is a lofty order, so mostly what I did there is kind of a Weird Alification of the original song, taking the chord progression and the melody and just kind of, tweaking it enough that it was unique from the original. So I went ahead and tried to see if AI could do any better than me. Let's take a listen. Gets the general tone of the song right, but I guess maybe that's not enough of a description. I just said upbeat piano music like the theme song to Cheers. So I figured that one maybe is not the best use case. So I moved on and tried to get an interpretation of the theme song for this show, AI Roundup, and I just tried an upbeat dance track with synth and pads and vocoder. And to be fair, the song doesn't have any vocoder in it. I just wanted to see if I could do it. Let's take a listen. Not really feeling it. That was actually kind of a painful sound to listen to. So then this is what I really got excited about is I took the chance I used the same prompt, an upbeat dance track with synth and pads and vocoder, and I fed in the melody from the song just to see what would happen. And I mean, hey, it's definitely an improvement. I don't feel like I got very accurate results to that melody. So then I went back to my DAW, my digital audio workstation, and I picked out the melody and I tried to specifically curate it for this purpose, and I fed it back in again. And then I tried it one more time with this new version of the melody, and I'll say that, let's take a listen. I'll say that is probably my favorite one to come out of it. Now, I don't think it sounds anything like the original song, which, I mean, if you haven't heard it, click back to the beginning of the show. But I really like that tune, and I wanted to see if I could get maybe some remixes. And, this was pretty fun. I especially like the drum crescendo kind of drum break type dance beat thing going on at the end. But, yeah, none of these I would probably supplant the original song that I created for the show, or for Tech Bar for that matter. So that was a fun use case. Let me know if you guys play with this. I'd love to hear if anybody can get some good results out of it. Obviously that's one of the things with these models. It's like rolling the dice. If you roll it 100 times, you might get something good out. I think it's funny that we have the metaphor of if you put a room full of monkeys on a typewriter on an infinite timeline, eventually they would write Shakespeare. Well, I kind of feel like that's where we're at with AI right now. We keep training the monkeys. You know, the monkeys are a lot smarter than just regular old monkeys. Somehow they've had, knowledge implanted, but nonetheless, still quite lacking. And I'll stay tuned. All right, so we got one more use case today. We're going to play around with Stable Diffusion to see if we can use ControlNet to convert a QR code into a piece of AI art. All right, we're going to give this a try. We got Stable Diffusion open and we're following the guide, the tutorial from StableDiffusionArt.com. Check the show notes if you want to go see that tutorial for yourself. For this one, we're going to be using the QR code for the MSP Media Network Discord server. If you haven't joined, you can scan that right now. All right, so we're using the image to image tab. We've dropped in our image to the canvas. Now we want to just change some settings here. I think first of all, I was told to use DMP++ SDE Keras. We're going to want to change the sampling steps up to 50. And we're going to set our image size to 768 on the height and the width. CFG scale will stay the same. Noising strength will stay the same. And then we're gonna go open up ControlNet. All right, so let's enable a ControlNet. Control type is tile. Preprocessor tile resample is already in there. Control XXX tile. All right, so this is gonna be the important part. Control weight. We're gonna bring that down to 0.87. Starting control step 0.23. This is all new to me. Ending control step 0.9. And of course, as always, you may want to play with this a little bit yourself to get different results. But the last thing that we haven't done yet is putting in a prompt. And they've given us some example prompts, so let's see what those are. So for the negative, I definitely will go ahead and copy these. And for the positive, we'll just use an example they've already tested. A cubism painting of a town with a lot of houses in the snow with a sky background. Looks like this is an artist, Andreas Rocha. Matte painting concept art, a detailed matte painting. All right, well, let's hit generate and see what we get. My computer is estimating about 2 minutes, so we're gonna fast forward through this part. All right, and let's see what we ended up with here. I guess I see a little bit. This is maybe like an overhead view of a town. It didn't come out like the tutorial at all. I mean, we could try a few more examples, but let's see if it worked. It does. Okay, cool. So, I mean, this one didn't really give us a ton of artistic differences in the original QR code. I'd say it's pretty similar. I think for the sake of the show, I'll run a few more tests and we'll do a time lapse of that so you can see what else I came up with. All right, and we've got another result here. This one is clearly much more artistic than the first result. The real question is, does it work? Let's give it a try. No, but unfortunately, this one seems to be too far of a departure from the original image. It looks really cool though, and I was actually hoping that this one would work because I can see a lot of similarities in the original QR code. So this is one that definitely takes some trial and error. I mean, with all AI generated art, re-rolling your results is a pretty common part of the process. It's funny, I think that's why a lot of people like to make fun of this stuff. It's like, instead of just randomly trying to roll for the result that you want, couldn't you have practice drawing? I don't know if I could practice drawing QR codes interpreted into art. That seems like a pretty tough skill. It seems like something AI is pretty well suited to, just my opinion. Nonetheless, this has been a fun experiment. We got 1 out of 3. This did actually come to our attention not just through the Discord. Matt and I actually were talking about this earlier in the week, and then this actually was posted on our Discord. Thanks to Lolden for suggesting this. First, I just wanted to say, hey, thanks for suggesting stories. But 2, if you try this out, share some of your results in the Discord. I'd love to see if anybody's getting it to work better than I have. It's definitely something that I think I'll keep trying because we use that QR code for the Discord so often on the network. It'd be nice to have some other versions of it. Before we go, hey, I'll just throw this in as a bonus. It's been a year now, and I know this because I'm getting memories on my Facebook feed from when I was posting a year ago. Crayon, or at the time I think it was called Dolly Mini, was open to the public, and everybody was trying these AI generated images for the first time. It was super fun, and it was super bad compared to what we are seeing now with things like even Stable Diffusion, but then Midjourney. I'll post a few of them behind me just so you can see the image that I generated, and then the comparison that I did by just feeding the same prompt back into Midjourney to see, if Midjourney 5.1 can make something a little more impressive. And hey, I gotta say, it's a huge step up. AI, you've had a glow up. So let's see where we are in another year. And speaking of which, that's it for today's show. If you haven't joined already, make sure you get into the MSP Media Discord. We'll throw that QR code from earlier in the show up on the screen. And make sure you also look for us everywhere on social media at MSP Media TV. You can leave us a voicemail at 1-833-MSP Network, or just send us an email, news@mspmedia.tv. And that's it for today's episode, y'all. Thanks for tuning in again. I hope you like this fast, truly roundup of AI related news. If so, let me know. I'd love to get your views. I'd love to get your thumbs up on the video. So if this is working better for you, sound off in the comments or in the Discord. Anyway, this has been your June 14th episode of AI Roundup. I'm your host, Phil Buck, and I'll see you next time.
This has been a broadcast of the MSP Media Network.